Today we're going to review how to load the rear inch 3/4 free connect with the Chief XD fog nozzle. It's a little bit different on the E1 series of trucks and any truck that has a tarp or a net over the rear of the hose bed, because now we have to keep the tip of the nozzle flush with the rear of the hose bed so that the tarp or net will cover. The first step in this process is to measure from the tip of the nozzle to behind the screw that holds the bail on the nozzle. For the Chief XDs, it's about 9.5 inches. So from this point, I want to make a mark that same 9.5 inches inside my hose bed. Now we'll begin this load the same as we do for any other truck. We will lay hose to the front of the hose bed. And start with a dump loop on the officer side of the truck. Again, lay hose to the front of the hose bed. And then place a bite even with the edge of the hose bed on the engineer's side of the truck. At this point is where we alter the load to make sure that it'll work on the E1 series. So on most trucks, we now start our flat stack making bites even with the edge of the hose bed. But for these trucks, we're going to make those bites at the mark we've already measured at 9.5 inches. What this is going to do is allow space for the bail of our nozzle to fit in the truck without binding when we finish our load. Now I'm 75 feet into the load, or half of my second section. I'm going to make my second pull loop. Now I'm going to go back and continue making bites at the 9.5 inch mark. Here's the end of our 150 feet. So just to review, up until this point, we started out with the same dump loop as the very first thing. We made a bite even with the edge of the hose bed on the driver's side of the truck. Then when we started our flat stack, the bites that we typically make at the edge of the hose bed, we recessed 9.5 inches for the Chief XD fog. We made a pull loop at the 75 foot mark, and the remainder of this 150 feet of hose, instead of having our bites even with the edge of the hose bed, we recessed them 9.5 inches. The purpose for all of that is so that the bail of this nozzle will recess in the truck and not have a chance of hanging on anything. So when we place the nozzle in the truck, you lift up the pull loop at the 75 foot mark and slide the nozzle into the truck. I usually leave about 1 inch of the tip of the nozzle sticking out so that it's easy to grab. That is what it should look like. The nozzle should be able to leave the truck without hanging on anything. Now at this point, we'll load our 100-foot Minuteman. I'm going to make the bites on all of this even with the edge of the truck. In. So in summary, what we should have, the dump loop and the bite on the engineer's side below the nozzle is the same as any other truck. When you begin your single wide flat stack against the officer's side of the truck, you will recess the bites that are normally at the edge of the hose bed will now be recessed in the hose bed. For this particular nozzle, 9.5 inches. Your pull loop at 75 feet is the same as it always was, and the remainder of the flat stack is single wide flat stack is recessed in the bed 9.5 inches. So when you're done, lift up the pull loop at the 75 foot mark. The bail of the nozzle should be riding on top of the bite on the driver's side and the pull loop on the officer's side of the truck. To deploy the line, it's the same as any other Minuteman. You'll grab the nozzle, you'll take from the nozzle up, place it on your shoulder, set it away from the truck, reach back, and grab both pull loops. For this video, we're going to go over how to load the SM20 fog nozzles on the rear pre-connects of the E1 series of trucks. This will be pertinent for the E1 series because they have the tarp in the back, and also some of our trucks have the net in the back. We may have to recess the fog nozzles to make it work. The first step in this process is to measure from the tip of the nozzle to just behind the bolt that holds the bail. For the SM20s, this is between 11.5 and 12 inches. The next step is to make a mark 11.5 inches from the edge of the hose bed back towards the cab. Once you have that mark, go ahead and start loading the hose. It begins the same as any other truck. Lay hose to the front of the hose bed and make a dump loop on the officer's side. Again, lay hose to the front of the hose bed, return and make a bite even with the edge of the hose bed on the engineer's side of the truck. Now we're at the point where we start our single wide flat stack against the officer's side of the truck. Typically, we make these bites even with the edge of the truck. But to accommodate the SM20 fog nozzle, we're going to make those bites recessed in the truck at our 11.5 inch mark. Now we're at the point where we've loaded roughly 75 feet of hose. Half of our second section, we're going to make our next pull loop, same as we always have. Then we're going to continue making bites 11.5 inches inside the hose bed. So to recap what we've done so far, started off with a dump loop on the officer's side, the same as we've always done. And then we made a bite on the driver's side, the same as we always done. Then our flat stack, instead of being flush with the edge of the hose bed, is recessed in the hose bed 11.5 inches. The next pull loop is at 75 feet, same as it always was. And then the remainder of this flat stack is recessed in the hose bed 11.5 inches. We did all that to allow room to set our SM20 fog nozzle. So at this point, we'll start loading our Minuteman. We'll set the nozzle in there, bail down. We will lift up the top pull loop, and this nozzle will bed right on top of this bite and right on top of this dump loop, just like that. We'll leave about 1 inch of the nozzle sticking out so it'll be easy to grab. And the bites on our Minuteman side will make even with the edge of the hose bed. What's important to note about this is where this nozzle rides. It should be riding on top of this bite and on top of this pull loop. And that'll let it come out of the bed without hanging on anything.